Welcome back to the Thinking Out Loud podcast. My name is Kevin Wilson.
And I am Kyle.
And I am super excited that you guys are back with us for another week. And just want to pause and just say how grateful that we are that you guys are listening to the show. As we try our very best to bring you just great content every single week. That's always been our mission. That's always been our goal. And we're going to continue to do that. And I just want you to know that we truly appreciate it. And just seeing kind of the stats on the back end, I'm kind of give you guys just a little window into some of our stats and a peek behind the scenes a little bit. And because you might be listening each week, you're like, man, I wonder who all else is listening with me. And we have people in 12 countries and over 200 cities in the U.S. That have listened to the show. And so I'm going to shout some of you guys out, shout some of your cities out. I'm not going to do Michigan because there's a lot of ones in Michigan and I don't, but some of you that are not in Michigan, because if you don't know this, we are recording. We both live in Michigan, recording from Michigan. And, but check this out. Here's some of the countries that are listening. So we've got France, we got the United Kingdom, the Philippines, Canada, Australia, South Africa, Germany, Oman, which I don't know where that is, and I apologize to the people there. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Oh man.
Finland, Switzerland, and the Netherlands. So those are some of the people in other countries. Or some of the other countries that are listening. And for the cities, now, like I said, there's over 200 cities. There is no way I can get through this entire list, but I'll just give you a few of them. So let's see who's listening with you. People in Columbus, Ohio, Albany, Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, Westlake, Stevens, Washington, Noonan, Georgia, the Woodlands, Texas, Ohio, Richmond, Kentucky, Shively, Kentucky, Paradise, Nevada, Fort Payne, Alabama, Manhattan, New York, Linden, New Jersey, Chicago, Illinois. We've got Columbia, Tennessee, Montgomery, Alabama, Bossier City, Louisiana. We've got Idaho. Let's see, Jacksonville, Florida, Houston, Texas, Tampa, Florida. We've got Ashburn, Virginia, West Lafayette, Indiana, Noblesville, Indiana, Arkansas. Let's see what else. We got Colorado Springs, Colorado, West Sacramento, California, Nashville, Tennessee, Cranford, New Jersey, Makati City, Metro Manila, Sterling, Alaska. I mean, I don't know, just there's so many and I'm not even halfway through the list. So just shout out to all of you guys. Blackheath, England, I'm looking at here. Let's see, some more in New York, more in California, Scotland. Wow. Just everywhere. Ontario. And we talked about Canada. So so many places. And I just want you to know, if I said something about your city, we thank you for listening. We truly do. Even I'm looking at Hawaii here. Hawaii is on here. Iowa. Oh man. So just a lot of places. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We're going to continue to bring you good content every single week. I don't know why Kyle is
just laugh. I just laugh.
He's just got a big smile on his face.
Hey, we in all reality, we thoroughly enjoy doing this together, and we thoroughly enjoy all of our audience. We've got social media pages that we would love to, you said over 200 cities. We would love to interact with you on our social media pages. And there are going to be times we post something that we say, comment below, like our post and comment below. We want to get to know you guys. We want to know what makes you tick mentally, some things that you're aware of in society that possibly we could talk about. And so
absolutely.
Be sure to not just listen, but converse with us. We want that on our pages. We want to get to know our listeners, especially from Iowa and Hawaii. So if you could go ahead and do that for us. Today we are going to get started with a topic that many of us have seen, but maybe not many of us know exactly what it is. We just know that it's a cool hashtag at the end of a political rant at this point, right? And so we're going to talk about woke culture. And for many of us, we listen to, we see an article, we hear a rant, and then we see at the end of the rant it's hashtag woke or hashtag stay woke. And
Mm-hmm.
the problem is, like anything else that we've experienced in the last 2 to 3 years, majority of people who are posting things like this, they don't even understand the origin of woke or what it means to actually be woke. And so we're going to talk about that today, because typically what happens is something in America becomes something organically, and usually with the right heart and the right frame of mind. When something does happen, if a people group form it, or if an individual forms it, or if an organization forms it, usually there is, at the base root of it, there is supposed to be some sort of social justice that comes along with that. However, in America, what we like to do is then say, well, your social justice isn't my social justice. So I'm going to use your statement and your
Mm-hmm.
phrase, hashtag woke, and I'm going to start ranting my own political beliefs. And now we're in this battle of, well, whose truth is true? And is this really even true? And so Kevin and I are going to discuss this idea of woke culture today with our audience, just so you know that we're doing our best to continue to educate yourself as well as ourselves on things in society. And so, real quick, before we get into this discussion, you're probably thinking, okay, I've seen hashtag woke, or I've seen hashtag stay woke, and I've actually seen it for a while now. I want to give you just a little bit of background, and then Kevin and I, we can banter back and forth on some things that we've seen and we've noticed on social media, in the news, as well, as far as wokeness goes. To give you a little bit of a history on wokeness itself, it really began as a watchword for Black Americans. The woke culture started near 2014 with the Black Lives Matter movement, where really the word woke or hashtag woke or stay woke was, for many people, it was unheard of before that time. But it was really just an alert to social injustice. It was an alert to police brutality. And that's where we really started to see the stay woke movement begin. And in the 6 years since 2014, or really 7 years, it's evolved into basically a single word summation of political ideology. It has turned from being centralized on social justice, or being centralized on police brutality, namely in a racial way, to now more centered on social justice, politics, critical race theory, things of that nature. And so it has been absolutely abused at
Mm-hmm.
this point.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, what we're doing is we're allowing for an uneducated variety, an uneducated majority of people to use this hashtag to continue pushing a political agenda in a very uneducated way. And so, Kev, we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And um I think it really became mainstream because it's the term's been around for a little while,
Oh, yeah.
for sure, but it really became more mainstream with our culture following the 2014 shooting of Michael Brown.
Yes.
And that phrase, stay woke, a lot of activists were using that to basically tell people, listen, keep watch for police brutality. Like, yeah, that was kind of the thing. And I think the issue here is, it's being used in it's being used, like Kyle said in the beginning, the wrong way. Not that being quote woke should be used at all, and we're going to flush that out here. But I think that for the majority of people, when you see that stay woke, woke culture, I'm woke, all of that kind of stuff, I think you should pause and understand exactly what that person is saying, because like Kyle said, it's being used now for political purposes, political ideology, social justice, politics. And we're going to actually have a show sometime in the future, hopefully in the near future, on critical race theory, because a lot of this that we're going to talk about today is intertwined with critical race theory. And I've said on this show, and so is Kyle, I am never going to get on the air and talk about something that I am not well versed or researched in. And if we're not, we'll usually have an expert on about it. And this is an area that I am still in the middle of research. I've been actually talking to people, not just researching on my computer. I've been calling and talking to other people, because I really want to get a good grasp on both sides of critical race theory. But a lot of this stuff that we're going to talk about today is intertwined in that. If you don't know what critical race theory is, you might want to check it out. It's one of the most controversial things that are happening in our society today. They're trying to push it in schools. Trump, when he was in office, he just said, "Hey, we're not doing this." And then churches are having some form of this type of training, and so there are people who are leaving the SBC, the Southern Baptist Convention, over it. So it's something that I think you guys, if you don't know about it, look into it, because it's going to affect you at some point. Either at your job, you may have to go through some training or something like that, or something, and you're just going to be like, what is happening right now? So when you hear us talk about this woke culture, you'll understand, and maybe critical race theory a little bit more as well.
Yeah. And the reason we want to discuss this woke culture topic today, if you're wondering, well, what brought this about? There's a lot that's happening in society, and there's a lot that's happening without any fundamental truth to it. There are organizations that are making decisions. There are individuals that are putting out posts. There's political individuals that are creating conversations about things that really don't have a basis to them. And so before we get into this whole topic, you've probably noticed some of this on just your social media page, but there's a fake wokeness that's happening as well. There's the ability to stay woke and be alert to injustices, and then there's also this ability to stay woke and just continue to create drama and more harm than you would if you were just going to be alert to um, police brutality or racial aspects of our nation. And so, three ways that you can really identify the fake wokeness in an individual, and I liked reading this, is if you see somebody on social media and activism only exists on their social media, if they're preaching and they're ranting about how we need to be active for, and you can name, I mean, for Black lives, we need to be active for LGBTQ community, we need to be active for babies' lives, or whatever it is, and it's only on social media, it's a sign of fake wokeness. It's a trigger post. It's
Yep.
a trigger personality.
Yep.
If someone's willing to just be willfully ignorant towards opposing information, we saw this with the presidential debates. I mean, there was just individuals just willfully just putting out what they want based off of how they felt, not based off of research, not based off of facts, posting satire sites, acting as if those are real sites, not even going into the research of finding out, is this a real site? Is this real information? Again, that's a sign of fake wokeness. It's, again, pushing an agenda that they want pushed without the research. And then thirdly, just the unwillingness to compromise or admit bad information. When somebody is clearly called out and the information is brought in injustice, and the individual continues to argue and just not compromise their way of thinking, guys, you have to be aware of people like that. That isn't being woke. That is fake woke, and it's just as ignorant as being racist or homophobic. It's just as ignorant.
Yeah.
It treats activism as another cool trend, and that's the problem with woke culture right now.
Mhm.
Is the woke culture that we're seeing and why we want to address this is because activism is great and standing up for what is right is amazing and doing it all the right way is super important, but it's not a cool trend. And in fact, if you're going to be an activist, you're going to sacrifice some things. You're going to sacrifice your reputation. You may sacrifice your job.
Yep.
You may sacrifice some friendships. And so
And you may
if we're
sacrifice your life.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when we'll discuss it, I mean, you've got some of those people in your notes, Kevin, and
Yeah.
I'll let you discuss those. But we have this ability as America to make things, again, we're self-centered. We make things these cool trends. And the fear in this woke culture is not only are we making it a cool trend and we're diminishing how imperative that activism and knowledge really is, but we're desensitizing ourselves to the fact that we have a false sense of education and and we're allowing our false sense of education to then educate other people, and so we have to be aware of what's going on social media and in our culture.
Kyle, give our listeners an example of a of a post on Facebook that you would see that would be quote woke. What is that Facebook rant that says at the end
Well,
of it says hashtag woke?
well, I have one here, and this may trigger some people, so just I'm
Uh-oh.
gonna get it out there. It's honestly been something that I've had a serious problem with. But basically, anytime, and I'm just gonna broad scale it first, and I'll give you an example. But anytime someone goes out of their way to make it clear that they know facts about a random issue that they saw on the news, when they see one Instagram post on activism, they follow, and then they suddenly teach everyone else about what it means, and they say hashtag woke. Like that's the epitome. That's like, I guess that's the anatomy of a social media post. I
Mhm.
saw someone else's post, or I saw this YouTube video on gun reform, or I saw this YouTube video on, let's just go ahead and say, Baby It's Cold Outside, a Christmas song. And I saw all this research on it, right? And so now I'm going to make this post to educate everybody else. And then I'm going to say hashtag woke. Um, when people support racist celebrities and others who are in the wrong just because they are brown, black, gay, trans, etc., when they express extreme anger over the fact that there's a politically incorrect Christmas song, right? Baby,
Mhm.
it's cold outside. Instead of being actually angry about issues that are truly mattering in society. So we're going to say, hey, I don't like Baby, It's Cold Outside because there's a possibility that he slipped a date rape drug into her drink. Yet we
Mm.
have Nicki Minaj on our airwaves. Yet
Right.
we have known rapist and known celeb. We have
R. Kelly.
R. Kelly, who it was known way before he was taken off the airwaves. Yet he made money, so we're gonna allow that money to speak. We have known artists who literally say, female artists who literally say they would drug their dates, rape them, and rob them. That's
Mm.
on air. We can trace it back to on air stuff.
Hmm.
And those celebrities are still allowed to play, but Baby It's Cold Outside is super offensive.
Right.
That is, and then we'll say hashtag woke, right? And no, that is such a false, it's misinformed, it's not real politics, it's not real facts. And what we're doing is we are allowing our sense of education to supersede actual education. Posting hashtag Black Lives Matter on
Hmm.
Twitter without truly knowing about the movement. That comment that I just made is going to anger a lot of people.
Yep.
Let me rephrase this. Black lives matter. Every life matters. So I'm okay with someone saying, hey, man, Black Lives Matter. But
Yeah.
you better understand what the hashtag Black Lives Matter group is really about and what the movement is about before you hashtag woke that. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
And
Yep.
so those are just a couple examples. And here's why I wanted to give you the signs of fake wokeness. If you are somebody who says hashtag Black Lives Matter, and that is the only place in your life that that movement takes place, you are fake woke.
Hmm. Hmm.
You are absolute. Go find out what that movement is doing. Go find out what they're about. And you're probably going to figure out, I do not physically want to be active with that group.
Yeah.
I'm being dead serious.
Yeah.
You're probably going to figure out I will probably break some laws and I will probably break my own moral values. And you probably won't hashtag Black Lives Matter anymore. Not because you don't think Black lives don't matter. Black lives matter. You just probably won't support that movement the way you thought you did.
Right. Right. And that's, I love, man, when I look, because sometimes we don't see each other's notes until right before we're getting ready to record. And I absolutely, last night I was finishing up some of my research and stuff, and I looked at Kyle's notes and I saw he put, that fake woke. I was like, oh my goodness. Like, I didn't even think it, like, that is great, because it is like, you're trying to act like you have this, this deep passion for something, when really you're just being trendy. You're just trying to be part of the what's happening, what's going on, trying to be relevant with whatever. And it's like, you don't even know, like, you watch a 3-minute video on a police shooting, and then you say something about that police shooting and then put hashtag stay woke.
Yep.
Not understanding that an hour before that police video surfaced, or the hour before that little clip that you saw, that person was charging at the police. That person was resisting arrest. That person was doing whatever they do. But because you want to be a part of a narrative, it's hashtag stay woke. So, and here's the problem. Here's the problem with wokeness. All right. It doesn't actually fix anything.
Nope.
Like that's the problem with this quote wokeness, culture. It doesn't fix anything. All it does is it blames and broad brushes an entire people group, right? So for instance, you see a police video, right, on YouTube, you see the police video on TV, whatever the case may be. You see, 30 seconds of a video. It's a white officer shooting a black guy, right? All you do 2 minutes after seeing it, you post on Facebook what I just said. Y'all, it's crazy out there. Hashtag stay woke. What does that mean? Like, what, like, you have no context. This hasn't been brought to court yet. You have zero context on what is happening, but yet you're telling people to stay woke with the intentions of saying, hey, black people, white people are out there hunting us down the streets. Stay woke.
Well, and that's why I said, like, if you're ignorant enough to do that, I'm gonna say it like I mean it. If you're ignorant enough to do that, you are just as bad as racism itself, because you're creating racism in the hearts and minds of those that are watching.
Yes.
Now listen, there is police brutality.
Yes.
And it happens all the time. Yes. And it doesn't just happen to Black Americans. However, the rate is high on Black Americans. So we're not negating that. I'm going to validate that. It needs to stop. It needs to stop. And there needs to be some sort of reform that happens. We're not saying that. But if you as an individual want proper reform to happen in the justice system, then you have to be willing to accept the proper reform in society as well. And if we're going to continue to stay woke in these types of ways, then police brutality is going to stay rampant. Because what we're doing is we're driving fear, we're driving a misunderstanding and an uneducation of Black culture with police, of white culture with police, of Asian or Hispanic culture with police, with police. When we give a 30-second clip, and this is just one example of many, but this is what's been so popular in the last 2 years, of the cool trend. As a young American on social media, you have a responsibility to educate your peers, and there's a power in your keypad. And so if you're going to say stay woke to a 30-second video of a police shooting and it's not accurate, you're not woke, and you're just as ignorant as racism in that moment.
100%. And like Kyle said, all it does is it causes further division, right? What you're trying to say you're helping, you're actually making worse, because you're quote woke, right? And as Christians, and you remember, this is a Christian show. So our thing is, how should we look at that from a Christian standpoint? And I look at that from a Christian standpoint and say, we should always have an awareness in our hearts if we're battling even the smallest of a racist thought, or if we're being bigoted in any way. Like, I mean, it's we should be monitoring that on a consistent basis. Christ and who he is causes us to be, quote, woke, right? I mean, the wokest, we're using some words here today, but the wokest you can ever be, right? And don't get me, listen, I'm educated. Don't.
Oh, we're educated. We're just, hey, if you don't like the way it sounds, pick it up with society.
Right. Yeah. The wokest you'll ever be is when you understand the truth of God's word. Like, that's what you'll understand that, that police officer that did do that wrong, right? Because as Kyle said, we are not saying that police officers do not do things wrong and that there are not some bad apples out there and there are not racist people. Listen, the problem is there's going to be racist people until Jesus comes. Why? Because we're humans. Yep. And there's sin in the world. We're not going to eradicate racism. It will never happen. I don't care how woke you are. It'll never happen. So,
and here's my problem: is being woke is being alert. And I mean, Kevin hit on the head. The reason we're talking about it is because I have a Facebook feed full of Christian friends. And the stay woke hashtag, or you don't even have to say stay woke or woke, but the posts that are being made to promote your agenda because your agenda makes sense in your head, it doesn't mean that it actually is logical. It doesn't mean that it's actually an educated opinion. And the problem is that even if we're Christian, guess what? You can still harbor some resentment towards individuals. And because you're Christian, you can harbor resentment towards politics. Listen, you are part of the fake woke culture if you talk endlessly about how much you adore your president, but you know nothing deep about his policies. We're going to call it like it is. Obama was voted in because he's the first black president. For some people, not for all, but for some people. And they didn't know his policies. Other people voted for his policies. That's great. If you can vote for a man for his policies, do what you do. But if you're voting for a man strictly on a man, you're fake woke. People voted for Trump merely because they wanted change. They didn't know his policies. You are fake woke if you're voting for policies because here's a white president now that's coming to create the change from the black president that was in office that you didn't like. You are just as fake woke as those who voted for Obama for his skin color as you are who voted for Trump because he was just a stubborn man that went against the ways. You have to know policies. If we're voting strictly because we're Democrat or Republican, we are fake woke. And so and the reason I say all that is because Christians are intermingled in that severely. And it was exposed not in the Obama era or the Trump era. It was exposed in the beginning of the Biden era towards the end of Trump's era. And one thing I want to revert you back to, if you're a Christian listening to the show, King David said, test me, O God. Know my ways, know my heart, check my heart. What he was saying was, I've been a murderer. I have been an adulterer. I have had a stillborn baby. I've experienced some feelings that I'm harboring in my life towards individuals and he had feelings towards people groups of his day. I mean, he hated those that hated his people. And so he was having to battle them and fight them. But even then, as a king, he was like, God, I need you to investigate what's going on inside of me. Wake me up to the reality of who I am so that I can figure out who I am before I lead these people. Before you make a post, ask yourself, is there any parasite in my life that may be draining the oxygen out of my thought here? And could this be more of a post based on triggering other people, or is this going to be a post that educates others? Test me, God. Know my thoughts in this moment. Is this okay to do, or do I need to take a different avenue in doing this? And that is the difference between being woke and being fake woke.
That's right. Yeah. And another issue with wokeness is it confuses, and where I'm talking specifically about race here, but it confuses the purpose when you know, because we've been talking about, you know, equality and racial equality, and
Oh,
we've been bringing examples up of police brutality and stuff like that, and so that's why I'm staying in that same vein and saying it confuses the purpose of the civil rights movement. Like
yes.
when the civil rights movement started, the civil rights movement was to create an environment that everyone had the same opportunity. They had the same shot at life. Not that the outcomes would always be the same, but that they had the same start, right? Just like somebody running a race, right? If you've got two people running a race, it is completely unfair to start the one of the opponents at a different place than the other person, right? They can't start past the start line, right? And then you have somebody behind the start line. You've got to, if it's going to be equal, you have to start them both at the same line. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what the civil rights movement in the beginning, when in its true form, was trying to do. It
Yep.
was saying, and you got to look at it from this way. So look at Martin Luther King and what he did. Martin Luther King he wanted equality of process. There's a difference between equality of process and equality of outcome. And I'm going to explain what those both are. So equality of process is an equal playing field. It's equality under the law, right? We don't want we don't want to be separate but equal. We want equality, under the law. That's what equality of process is. Now, equality of outcome is basically saying that the outcome, even though we've been given both the same shot at life, right? There's nothing holding us back or anything like that, and we have the equality under the law. The outcome has to be favorable to a certain group, because if the outcome is not favorable to that certain group, then they now say it's because of, oh, well, that person was privileged. Oh, well, that person's white. Hashtag stay woke, right? So
Yes.
there is a difference between equality of process. So, the again, I go back to the race, to the if somebody's getting ready to go on a race, okay? If Kyle and I, and this is perfect because Kyle's white, I'm black, in case you didn't know. um,
I'm white.
yes, and I'm black. Oh my.
What?
I've been criticized of not knowing that I'm black, but that's okay. Um, oh boy, Kyle had something to say there.
I did.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Filter.
Okay, you filter. All right. Stay woke, bro. Um, but if you take somebody that's at the start line of a race, all right, say so me and Kyle are starting to race. Both of our feet are planted at the same exact position on the start line. As we're running, if Kyle begins to get faster than me, better than me, and starts outrunning me, woke culture would say once we get to the finish line and Kyle gets past me, they're going to say, you know what, that was rigged. There's something, you know what, there's no way, because Kevin is supposed to be one of the fastest running people in the world. He's got a record, man. Have you seen his record? Like there was something that wasn't right there. He must be taking some type of drugs, or he must have whatever, hashtag stay woke. No, I had equality of process. We both started at the same line, right? We both had the same opportunity to win. But I either didn't train well enough, I did not hydrate well, I didn't, whatever the case may be, I was overconfident, and Kyle actually passed me up. It's not because he's white. Kyle passed me up because he did everything that he was supposed to do and made the effort and put the time in to be better at that than me. All that we're to have is equality in process, right? I just want the same shot as Kyle. Everyone should have the same, they should start at the same place in the sense of having equal shot at whatever it is in life. And that is what Martin Luther King was going after.
And I think I love that you're educating the audience on this, because this isn't talked about enough in just the race debate itself. A lot of people were upset when Morgan Freeman came out and said the only reason race exists is because we still talk about it, right? Mm-hmm. He said the only reason racism exists is because we still talk about it. Just stop talking about it. And they said, well, how simple is it for him to say because he was more privileged? Now, this is the black culture saying it back to a black man. Well, you were more privileged. And what he was saying was, listen, I'm not more privileged. We all had the same process, okay? We all had the equal process. My outcome was different than your outcome, just as it was different than majority of a Caucasian outcome. He's wealthier than most Caucasian people, right?
Right, yeah.
Everybody had the same process. The outcome doesn't have to be the same. And I love that you say, because the reason things are being canceled and the reason things are being displayed the way they're being displayed is because the outcome isn't the same as everybody wants it to be. And because someone's offended by the outcome, well, now that outcome can't be possible. So we're just going to take that away from society. Yes. and we're going to get into it. You're going to keep going, but there's a reason why woke culture and cancel culture are intermingled. And that was a little hint to it there, is because once someone gets offended because the outcome wasn't there, now we can cancel it and stay #woke.
Right.
It's so uneducated.
Right. And I'll tell you right now, any of the young people listening to me, youth or young adults, I'll tell you right now, you don't want to live in this world. Like, no. I'm telling, like, it sounds trendy now. It feels good to talk about it. And it's like, everyone's doing it. So it sounds cool. And it's like, man, we're going to change things, and I'm telling you, it's a false floor. It's a bad premise. It's like a house of cards. I don't know how many analogies I can give you. Like, it's building your house on sand. I mean, give me the analogy and I'll give it to you. You can't do this because it empties things of its true meaning. Like nothing will mean anything if you continue to be fake woke. Like people the world won't change if you continue to be fake woke. And remember what Martin Luther King said. He said that we want a world where people are not judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. That's the difference between equality of process and equality of outcome. He's like, look, I don't want you to be judged by the color of your skin. Right? That's not equality if I'm being judged by the color of my skin.
Right.
But what changes that all around is that if this person is judged by the content of their character, right? And unfortunately, that's a lot what happens on these police shootings, right? If you think about it, a person is being judged based on the content of their character. Their character is when that police officer is behind their car and running their plate, and it says conviction for armed robbery, conviction for retaliation against a police officer, all of these things. The policeman gets to the car and the person starts saying, I'm recording you. Or the person says, I don't understand why you stopped me, man. This, and just starts going off, and the police officer hasn't even said anything. Remember, that police officer at that moment is judging that person by their character, not their color. But woke culture turns around and goes, no. Forget all of that. Forget that he just got out of jail for assault on a pregnant woman. Forget that he just got out of jail for armed robbery. Forget all of that. No. That person is judging him based on the fact that he is black or Mexican or Asian or whatever the case may be. And that's the problem, because woke culture is looking at the wrong thing. Woke culture should be looking at truth, but like Kyle said, it's fake woke culture. Right? Yeah. And that's, guys, I'm telling you, I'm looking at this and I'm just like, we can't continue to go down this path as a society. And next time I want us to get into a little bit more of some of the things that we still have to go. I mean, because there's a lot of stuff that's happening in quote unquote woke culture that's affecting, and it's going to start affecting your everyday life. I promise you, if we continue to go down that road. But there's more to this. And, again, you have to understand, neither one of us are saying that we agree with anything in our society that's going wrong and that's bad and that people are doing that is wrong, right? We do not support police brutality. There are certain shootings and killings that have happened that we clearly all see as Americans that looks very racial. Like, it just, there is no way around it. This police officer killed this person because they were black or because they had, you know what I'm saying? They have some racial issues, whatever the case, right? And there are other parts of society, because I don't ever want you guys to think that we're in this bubble, right? That we're in this world. We live in this world too. Kyle's a white man. He knows it from that perspective. I'm a black guy. I've lived in my skin my whole life. Like, I have had things happen to me that were very, very racially motivated. I said verily, like Jesus, but very racially motivated, right? My family has been subjected to that. And so don't get me wrong. Am I woke? Yep, I'm woke. If you want, but I'm woke in the right way, right? And so I will never, ever say that racism doesn't exist, because it does, because it's happened to be multiple times. And not something I perceived. It actually happened to me and my family multiple times. So let's, as we talk about this, we're not saying this from a, and you hear passion in us. The passion you hear is because we see where our culture is going, and it's not a good place. But
yeah. The passion you hear is because we set this goal out to do the podcast for education. We want to educate ourselves. We want to educate our audience. And when we see things like this happening, it's scary to think that we're going to have a generation of people who are raised off of emotions.
Yeah.
And not education. It's just, I can't fathom it.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, well, guys, listen, if you're listening right now, you're listening on an Apple device, why don't you scroll down all the way to the bottom, and you may or may not want to give us 5 stars after this conversation, but whatever you want to give us, go to Apple, like I said, go to Apple.
Listen, we may not like the outcome, but we had an equal process as all the other podcasts.
That's right. Whoa. Drop the mic. He's woke, folks. Anyways, but yeah, scroll down as you're in the app all the way to the bottom. Give us a 5-star rating, 4-star rating, whatever you want to do there. And also do us a favor and write a review. This helps us tremendously. And of course, share this on your social media. Like our Thinking Out Loud podcast page. We also have a private group, Thinking Out Loud Podcast Fans. And then if you want to know more about us, you can go to www.thinkingoutloudmedia.com. That's our website. We have resources there and all kinds of things there. And you can learn more about Kyle and myself. And also, just tell your friends. And we appreciate you guys listening. God bless you guys. We will see you next week. Let's continue this conversation.